Hello and welcome. We're excited to be here for another episode. My name is Juan, here with Mark and
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, and
Mm-hmm.
we like movies. Say hello to the folks, fellas.
Sometimes. was that
Hey,
was that an
hey,
audience cheer? Ooh,
yeah,
I
that
didn't know
is
you
for
were in
sure.
front of a live studio audience. I love it.
It was an attempt, at least.
Hey, I heard it.
All right. Well, we are obviously ready to go. Today, we are talking about my pick, which is the film The Wonder. You can find this film on Netflix. It's directed by Sebastián Lelio. It stars Florence Pugh, Tom Burke, and Kíla Lord Cassidy. It's produced by Element Pictures. It has a runtime of an hour and 48 minutes. And I'll read here a brief description from IMDb with some notes added from myself. And then I'll get into a bit of an introduction before starting off the review portion of the show. So, this film is set in the Irish Midlands in 1862. And the story follows a young girl who stops eating but remains miraculously alive and well. English nurse Lib Wright, played by Florence Pugh, is brought to the tiny village to observe for 14 days through 8-hour shifts that are alternating with a nun to observe the 11-year-old Anna O'Donnell. Now, tourists and pilgrims mass to witness the girl who is said to have survived without food for months, 4 months to be exact. Is the village harboring a saint surviving on manna from heaven, or are there more ominous motives at work? Now, this description really sets up the mysterious and investigative element of the film, which for me was a bit of a surprising turn. As Liv becomes wrapped up in the details and the nature of the event that she is being invited to witness, she, along with the aid of her newfound reporter, quote unquote, friend, Will, becomes more of a detective on the case than a nurse providing aid. She certainly still does that, but her main drive and motivation are equal. She wants to help Anna principally, and she wants to find out exactly what is going on, especially as she clues into the growing possibility that some form of foul play is afoot. It's impossible to talk about this story without also mentioning that it is set in Ireland, just 10 or 20 years after the Great Potato Famine, or the Hunger, as it is also referred to, which devastated the Irish population. We must also note that the movie begins in a present time warehouse slash movie studio where we are reminded that what we are about to witness is a story and that perhaps perspective matter. More thoughts on that later. So this was my pick. I knew absolutely nothing about it except for what I saw when I was scrolling around on Netflix one day, and I caught the preview that plays automatically when you select when you land on a
We know Netflix, bro. You're good.
Anyway, I was immediately intrigued by the mystery of this child who hadn't eaten for 4 months. Florence Pugh is a really good actor, in my opinion, and I was impressed by her performance in this film. The beginning was puzzling, but in a good way, and it remained as an earmark in my mind while I followed the story from scene to scene. I felt that there were strong performances throughout and a very titillating plot, but I was disappointed by the twist only because I wanted to be spooked or creeped out, and this didn't provide that. However, what it did have was a very thought provoking turn of events that touched upon some really interesting themes and ideas. Uh, Kevin, what did you think?
Okay. So this movie started off, and I started thinking, oh, great, another movie where I'm not going to know what's going on because I didn't get, like, when she was doing that drug. I'm like, I don't know what's happening right now. And then, and that's how movies are. You have to wait. And then there was the big reveal as it peeled back stuff. And when they revealed, like, the secrets, I remember thinking to myself, oh, God, I wish I was back to where I didn't know what was going on in this movie. um, you also, like, I didn't realize it was only an hour and 48 minutes because, good Lord, did it feel longer than that. That beginning was slow. That ending was slow. The middle part did pick up when you were finding out stuff. And again, I will talk about what we found out later. And I was like, all right. And you weren't creeped out. I was creeped out by what they were revealing. And yeah, and I just didn't get some of the storyline. Like, oh wow! Like at first, I kept having to remind myself that this was not Amish country because that guy kept reminding me of an Amish person.
What guy?
And
The reporter?
yeah, the reporter. I'm like, oh no, he's not Amish. They're not even in America. But I don't get how they went from being friends to like, oh, I heard about your family. Oh, the gory parts, kiss, let's do it. I'm like, that's just. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I thought you hated me. Obviously not. So I didn't like the ending. I think I might have liked the ending better. Spoiler alert, if she died. But I just thought the ending was too neat of a wrap up, and I was like, all right. Like we spent the past like the ending 20 minutes watching them just get on a boat. And I personally the only wonder is how people stayed awake during this movie.
All right.
Mark, what did you think?
Well,
Fair enough.
before Mark goes, I think we need to have a brief conversation about, how much are we prepared to give away? About because
What do you
clearly,
mean?
I'm giving it all away.
We have made it known that we are spoiling everything. We've been sitting in your fridge for a month now. We stink and like we're spoiling everything, bro.
okay, so
But
all right,
by
let
my
me
mental math, this is coming out like the first week of February.
okay.
So,
Let me pause here then and say if you are listening and you're
Yeah, you
intrigued,
could do a disclaimer.
if you're intrigued by what you've heard so far, then this would be a great time to pause, go watch the movie for yourself, and then come back and listen to the rest of the episode. Okay, Mark, your take.
Well, for those who don't follow instruction, to go off what Juan said, don't even bother. Don't bother watching this. Just save yourself the time. I think this was the wonder was all of the different ideas that were jammed into one movie, and none of them worked with anything. I just felt like there were so many great storyline and plot points is, and nothing panned out. I do think that the ending, and again we're spoiling, with the incest, it was just a poor twist. Like I'm not a fan of that stuff to begin with. So, usually when it's in movies, I don't care for it. And this, it just felt like a cop out. Um, I fully expected this to be a horror movie from the poster and the story.
Mm-hmm.
And like you, Juan, I was disappointed that we didn't get anything that was horror related. I don't feel like there was any suspense. There was no drama. It was just a boring ho hum story about why is this girl not eating? And that's kind of it. So it really didn't pan out to anything. Um, I thought that the beginning was the most interesting part, so that was interesting to hear Kevin say that. Um, because I was intrigued by all the ideas that were coming out, all the potential plot points and things that could be happening in this movie. That's what got me in. And as it progressed, I just started, you know, becoming bored with it. And it is a wonder that people were able to stay up for this movie.
Um, I think that I hear where you guys are coming from, and I don't disagree. I do feel like the plot was almost just a vehicle for the director or the writers to introduce the themes that they wanted you to be thinking about and wrestling with. So that's yeah. So maybe we can talk about that now. What do you feel like were some of the themes that this movie was trying to highlight?
I really honestly can't even tell you because I thought the whole eating thing was going to play a major part into it because I noticed there was a lot of scenes where they were showing Florence and what was character named Lib. There was
Eating, yeah.
yeah, there was many scenes of her. There was some symbolism, and I even wrote it down. I'm like, they keep showing her eating, like is like what is this supposed to mean? Is and then nothing panned out. Like, I thought it was going to be some crazy twist that like she all of a sudden had this insatiable hunger and she was eating, and in turn she was actually keeping this girl alive. But no, it just it was curious. And the whole beginning with breaking of the fourth wall, like I didn't understand what the point was. It started with that and it ended with that. And I didn't understand what that had to do with the movie itself. I was very intrigued at the beginning when it showed us the set pieces and whatnot. And
Yeah.
I was very intrigued by that. And then it was just kind of like in out, in out. I'm like, what? I don't
Yeah.
that what are you trying to tell me with this? So I feel like I don't know. I feel like this was trying to be a highbrow movie, and just nothing just panned out.
Oh, that's great. I have some ideas
Ooh,
that we can
let,
discuss. But yeah, go ahead.
let me throw one out. Well, I think like one of the themes that like I did catch on, which was in the middle part, was you see like exactly what flawed religious rationale can do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When she thought that, hey, I have to do this penance, I have to do this, in order to save my brother, who's burning in hell now. And and she had such a fervent belief in it that you couldn't dissuade her. That's why she just wasn't gonna eat. And it was being fed by her mother who wanted this. And it was all, again, it's not religious belief, it's like a flawed religious belief. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's something that they came to, and like they, even logic wouldn't help persuade them, or like, hey, look, that's not what you want. They couldn't be persuaded. I think that was one of the themes that they were trying to focus on. I don't know if he meant it as flawed religious belief or like religious belief, but that's
We
one
don't
Um,
thing.
we don't know because it was just a poor adaptation of it.
no, I don't think so. I think,
Mm,
well, what Kevin's saying is true. And I think it goes beyond just the family, right? I mean, even the doctor who was like trying to find a supernatural explanation for what was happening, and then even the people that came to like witness her, because they were just feeling like she's clearly some type of saint. There's a quote from the director who says about a previous film, but it bleeds into this one. And he says, "What I find fascinating is the interplay between the question of meaning that religion poses, a basic question, with the fact that in Chile and he's Chilean, so in Chile and Latin America, the Judeo-Christian version of reality is dominant. Everything is defined in relation to this view, whether you are for or against it, whether or not you escape it." And so I think this for him was actually a vehicle for him to be able to color this film with these ideas, because back then obviously this was a very religious nation, and
hmm
therefore town and family. And so part of the problem, that the incest created, because to go further into it, so the reason why Anna, the child, stopped eating was because she was sexually abused by her older brother who died. And now her family wrestling, with their religion and also with this trauma, and this horrible thing that happened. The best way, that they could come up to kind of rationalize this, or to make sense of it, or to do something about it, while also dealing with sort of the shame and the guilt that they had a son who did this, was to, now transfer that guilt or shame over to the girl and say like, hey, now you have to make the sacrifice in order to like free him from the hell that he's in. So again, I think the whole setting of this film really lends itself to the ideas that clearly the director is very passionate about, and trying to these ideas and these questions that he's trying to convey to his audiences. So yeah, that's definitely one that I also picked up on. But about the eating, Mark, that's very interesting because I noticed it too, but this didn't occur to me until just now that you
All right.
brought that up.
Yeah.
And it's very, very interesting actually, because she is English and she
Mm-hmm.
came over to Ireland, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's not used to not eating, right? So whereas the people there in that town and in that country, they are used to it. That's why it even sort of like has an impression on them. To
Mm-hmm.
her, it's normal. It's like, yeah, I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe even more than that.
Snacks, second dinner, second lunch.
Yeah, for them, they're like, yo, we just got out of this famine, you know. So
We're
like,
having this soup for the day.
yeah. So I think now that I real that's dawned on me, that was again just the contrast there between, these people that have been living through this tragedy that decimated like 25% of that population,
Yeah.
and then someone who was untouched by it. And then about the beginning and the end, that starts in this movie set, warehouse, and then ends right back in that place. There was an interesting, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but one of the interesting things that someone pointed out is at the beginning, she's like on a ship. It goes from the warehouse to the scene inside the ship of her heading to Ireland, and
Mm-hmm.
then the at the end, the three, Will, Anna, and Lib, are on a ship headed to. I think they were going
England.
to Scotland,
Oh, no, they're
um,
going to Australia.
Australia, yeah, and then they exit that scene back into the warehouse. But for me, I don't think this is the only idea for that, but one of them for me was kind of to say like, hey, look, here we are in modern times. So even kind of the same as the contrast between, her eating as an English woman in the midst of, the Irish tragedy. Similar to that, it's like here we are in modern times telling this story about the past and about the circumstances that these people were in, because of what life was like back then, because of, their religion, and because of their traditions and the way that life was back then. So it was kind of like saying, like, I think it was highlighting that, that while circumstances and situations happen to you regardless, you're also kind of a victim of your circumstances, because, had that happened to Anna in modern times, it's very unlikely that she would be, not eating for 4 months and being regarded as a saint. There would have been much different results, whether for better or for worse. But I
Yeah.
think that seemed to be one of the things that at least I got out of it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that a little bit, and this is just pure speculation. I think that a little bit of that is stemming from the fact that you were able to set up this timeline knowing that this happened a couple years before the famine. And so like the Irish were already used to not eating, and then they had this famine, and they're even, there's even less chances of them eating. So I don't know. I think maybe that's kind of helping you decide, because I didn't really get those vibes during the movie. Like I don't, unless a movie captures me and I'm like, dude, I got like Prey. After Prey, when I watched it for the first time, I started looking up lore and all that stuff because the movie just, I was entranced by everything that was happening. And so I feel like had I been more interested in this story and in this movie and I went and did the research, then I would have started piecing things. Oh, so that's why this happened. And I don't feel like when you watch a movie, you have to, like, you shouldn't be required to do the research to understand what the director and the story is trying to put in front of you. The whole point of the movie is to, hey, this is what we have, and everything should be explained, and leave things, around that make me want to go and find out more, instead of me going to find out just because I'm confused. I'm not sure why all of this was happening.
Yeah,
um
good.
so again, I'm just speculating because I don't know, how you went about your research and whatnot, but I feel like from what I'm hearing from you and from what I saw, you're kind of basing things off of what you read and looked up and the movie, and then, formulating this thought.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did, and there's a good reason why. Although, I mean, I think the potato famine is probably it's something a lot of people know about. I don't think
Not
everyone.
year though. I don't know what year it happened. Like I don't know when
No,
it
no, no,
started.
no.
I know it
I
happened.
no, I agree, but no, you're right. The reason that I went and looked it up was because I realized, so when I was in college, I studied literature, and I remember that we talked, at least for a class or two, because I think we were looking at Irish literature.
Yeah.
So the potato famine came up, and dude, I was not paying attention at all. Like, I just remember hearing about the potato
Potatoes, I
famine,
mean, it's not a big deal,
and
right?
right, so I was like checked out. So now I was like, oh, this is that thing that we were learning about in college. So I was like, let me Wikipedia this
Yeah.
real quick and see what I missed. So yeah, I was reading about it, but it was because of, I missed it the first time around.
The potatoes, not only were they for food, but they were for alcohol too. That was the big point. Not only do we not have food, we don't have booze either. We're screwed.
Hey, they were Irish after all.
Uh, so for me, that's kind of like, I feel like there was a lot of great ideas. I really wish this was a horror movie. Like
Yeah,
that's what I was totally set up for,
yeah,
man. I was ready for some like crazy twists, even supernatural twist, demonic. I don't care. I
yeah,
was expecting anything horror related. But
yeah,
then when the
Like I
incest popped up, like I rolled my eyes. I'm like, ugh. And I shouldn't have that reaction to incest. That's a pretty big deal. But in this movie, it was kind of just like, okay, so like were her parents aware of what was happening and they're still like forcing her to be this martyr to, atone for her brother's sins?
yeah,
Were they at like it felt like they knew what was going on, but they didn't care because they were just upset that she was the reason that her brother died, and so she needs to fix it. And for me, that's cop out. Like that really is. I mean, I know there's bad parents in the world, but for both parents to be like, oh yeah, no, we're cool with our son doing what he did, and we want to make sure that his soul is in heaven and not hell. I don't know, man. It's just it for such
but I
a
think
big topic, and to just for us to think, "Yeah, everyone's okay with it." I don't know.
but I think it went beyond just like rape because they weren't they like they were secretly married. It was
She said
double
she loved
love.
him. I mean,
Yeah, it was
she
like
said she's like,
her
"Oh,
brother
I love
called
my
it
brother."
double love.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
love for
I
a
think that's
wife
why
and
it
a
went
sister.
beyond just yeah. It was still statutory rape, but it was more than just rape. It was this consensual thing. I think was happening, and I think the parents knew.
Right, and
And
if that's the case, like I, I can, I'll give you maybe one parent going, "Yeah, no, this is okay," but for both, no, there's no way that two people would be like, "Yeah, no, we're cool with this." I find that hard to believe.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a lot of information that we're not given. So a lot of this is speculation. I mean, it is probable, like Kevin said, that the parents knew to some extent, but I think beyond that, it was just. I mean, there's certainly, a deep level of like guilt and shame, and just not knowing, what to do, and clearly, I mean, they made all the wrong decisions. It's not to justify it, but again, it is to kind of at least try to understand not what any parent would do, but what these people did and why they did it.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, Mark, and that was my biggest disappointment, that this was set up to be an amazing horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the score was awesome.
Yes.
The way that the film was shot, I mean, it was awesome. And also, like Florence Pugh, like she's kind of becoming like this generation's scream queen,
Yeah.
because she did like Midsommar,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if she did one. I think she might have done one more horror movie. I'm not sure. I didn't look up her full filmography, but like as soon as I saw her and I kind of saw all these other elements, and then you have that scene where she does that incredibly heavy sedative drug, and so
Mm-hmm.
she kind of is just out of it, like in another dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just had all these elements, and then when it was like, no, it's just actually her mom's just like eating the food like a bird and then putting it in her mouth. It was
Yeah.
like, dang it.
There was one point I wrote down when Lib mentioned that she was pregnant at one point. I think this is around the time. I think it showed right after she was doing that whatever that liquid it was, and I literally wrote down like, so wait, is her baby dead? And what the hell is she drinking? Because they kept showing her drinking that liquid, but they never played into it. And I mean, was it a psychedelic? Was it helping her? It there was no rhyme or reason to it. And I'm all for, like, listen, if you need to do some extracurricular activities, you do you. I'm cool with that. But it's just, when we're watching a movie, it's like, okay, well, why is she doing this? What's the purpose of it? What's the point? And it didn't feel like it was just like, oh well, here she is taking a drug and she's zoning out. And I is it helping her come to her deductions easier, or is she like, it didn't make sense why she was doing that.
I mean, I took it. What it appeared to me was that she was still grieving. I think it was
Because of her baby.
because of her baby, because the booties,
Yeah.
the little baby booties are right there.
Yeah.
So this was a way, this was her way of
Coping.
coping. Yeah, exactly. What I didn't get is like why she had to prick herself and then drink the blood.
I didn't understand
Uh,
either. Again, I thought that was going to play into the horror side of
uh,
it. I was expecting something to come out of that, but again, there's all these things that are happening that are interesting, but then it falls flat. It's like either nothing comes out of it, or it didn't work for the rest of it. But I 100% agree with you with the sound. That's the first thing I put. I said the beginning soundtrack is spooky and suspenseful. It sets the tone for the movie because, again, I was expecting a horror movie. But even afterwards, when I realized this wasn't a horror movie, I put, like, halfway through the movie, I said, best part of this movie so far is the soundtrack. I mean, every time there was music playing, like, it would bring me, even if I fell out, it would bring me back into the movie. And I'm like, okay, this soundtrack is bringing me back in. I agree 100% that the soundtrack itself was phenomenal.
I will say why I like the soundtrack. If I never read what ethereal music plays again, because that's all my subtitles kept putting down. I was like, oh my god, like it's good music, but I just kept reading ethereal music. Okay,
Well, the genre of ethereal music.
yeah.
Well,
Oh, and a little quick note: what she was drinking, because I just looked it up, is laudanum, which is like a tincture of opium. That's what she was
mhm.
taking.
I mean, I figured she was taking something that was making her trip balls, but still, the fact that they showed it multiple times, I thought it was supposed to play into the movie. If it was a one and done, I would have brushed it off, but they kept going back to it. So I thought, okay, I'm supposed to understand why she's doing this, and I never understood why. You
I,
know,
I, I did think, like horror wise, I did think the movie was building up to it's going to become a cult, and everyone just starts worshiping this girl, and we're going to see Lib like turn and start becoming like this like mindless person who worships this girl who's probably a demon.
that
But
would
Mhm.
have
that
been
didn't
better
happen.
than what I saw.
That would
100%.
have been cool. Well, but even that, like, okay, so even as I hear us discuss that, is it possible that in a sort of twisted or creative way, the director is even toying with the notion of what a horror movie is, right? Because we're expecting gore, maybe monsters, supernatural stuff, but truly, what is more horrific than a
Then
family
incest.
basically incest, but also like these people, over 4 months,
Yeah.
basically starving their daughter, and to the point of death beyond that,
Right, but that's what I'm trying to that's what I'm trying to understand. Were they aware of what was happening between their children, or are they just looking at it as this is our son that we lost and it was because of her, so we're upset. Like that's and
Well,
it's
it wasn't because of her though. Like he got sick.
I know, but they pinned it on
But
her. They made
but
Oh,
it
they were
her
right,
pinning
fault.
it.
because like God was punishing him,
Yeah, it
right?
was
Right.
sin. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know to what extent, we don't know to what extent they knew.
Right, which
Um,
again is another like that's a major reason why I'm disappointed in this because that's another aspect of this film that could have happened. Like it could have showed us how demented or tortured or even how simple and naive these parents were. Like
yeah.
it could have went either way, but it was just kind of like, meh, maybe. Who knows? There was a
Uh,
lot. There was a lot left for me to decide. And
yeah.
you know me, I like action movies. Like I like dumb movies. So you can't leave it up to me to decide what's happening. I need
Yeah.
that hand holding.
Well, something interesting about that actually, because um, yeah, this was something that occurred to me, is that there are undeveloped characters in this movie, which are is really frustrating because like I really like Will, as a character,
What did
as
you
a
like about him?
well, yeah, I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So while
He got that booty. That's what he like.
he,
You
well,
got to chat that.
he sure did. While as a kind of a he's not quite a leading man, but he's a co-leading in this film. Um, but so I like, I feel like he was, had some charm and wit, and just has this amazing life, where he's a globe-trotting reporter and he's seen some amazing events and he's been to some incredible places, and he escaped, Ireland, where his whole family died in the famine. So I think there were really good things about him, and then when he comes on the scene, you don't trust him. I mean, you can't he's made out to be like just this self-serving individual who's just there to write a great story, but he then ends up kind of sacrificing some of those things, to help Lib, and then beyond that. So but I, it could have given us more about him. It didn't give us enough. And then the other one that I felt was also underdeveloped, or underutilized, was the one female character, Kitty, who, I mean, I guess she was Anna's older sister.
Hmm.
She's the one that is at the end in the final shot in
Hmm.
modern. I wanted to know more about her, and I was interested and intrigued by her. She seemed like, in that family, right, she seemed like she was not, like she was wiser than the parents, like she wasn't sold on any of this, but for some reason or whatever, some motivation, she was going along with it. But she seemed like there was more depth to her, but they just didn't give us that. They didn't allow us to see that. And part of all this underdevelopment, I feel like, is because they just chose to focus on Lib. Some on Anna. She's the one they focused on the most after Lib, but
Hmm.
like the whole movie was about Lib.
Right.
And I think that comes down to the writer who adapted the screenplay, because this lady Emma Donoghue, she also adapted the novel that was the film Room. And if you've seen Room, that one is all about Brie Larson's character
Hmm.
and little boy. So there's something about this heavily female centric movie. And maybe for Larson, for a room that worked fine because it was literally just Brie Larson and her son in a room for
Hmm.
90% of the movie. But for this, where the playground was so much bigger and there were so many other characters, the movie could have used, some more time spent developing some of those characters and relationships, in my opinion.
See, and that's why I think the whole incest thing was a cop out because I feel like that was just thrown in there to be like shock value, because it just I was not expecting that at all, like at all. I wasn't expecting that to come about, um, and knowing that this Emma was the one who did the room. Like the room was great. I enjoyed that because of how condensed we were to that room and how we had to focus on what's happening there. And there's a story there. Um, I don't, I, yeah, nothing transcribed to be the same in this movie here. And going off of Will, like, I don't know why, but from the get go, I just labeled him like as TMZ or something. Like he's annoying.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like he just walked in going, "Yeah, I'm here to write a story about this," and she's like, "Nope, not happening." And then fast forward, and oh, I thought she didn't like me. I'm like, I thought she didn't like you either. Like, and but you still grabbed her and kissed her. Like, as someone who doesn't think that someone likes them, how do you also in turn grab her by the back of her head and kiss her? That those two things don't usually coincide. So it just when that happened, I was kind of like, what? But I felt like that had to happen to progress the story, because I don't think Will did anything out of good intention. I think he did it because of vagina, and even he didn't even want to commit to her like 100%. But he's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know, he may have traveled the world and he may have been, hitting up all these women all over. I don't know, but I didn't get that vibe to be like him as a player and him. I don't know. It was just so weird when that happened, and I literally said out loud, like, "What?" And then the next scene, they're standing along the wall banging. I'm like, "Where is this coming from?" Like, I would have never guessed that this was gonna happen. I had no inkling or any idea that they would be doing this right now, but it was a major point for it to happen because he's the one that helped them get out. So again, another cop out for me.
But I think she did open the door to that because while the initial um, response, because he tries to talk to her the first time they talk and like
Hmm.
ask her questions or say, hey, give me access. And she shuts it down completely. She's like, bro, it's not happening. Basically, like you can ask all you want. It's not happening. I'm here to do my job. And then she starts to pick up that something weird's going on. So then the next time they meet, it's along the path to the house, and he's with his horse. I think that was the next time, and she then all of a sudden she her demeanor's changed, and she actually starts to share some things about it. So at that point, it was it was, at least for me, I felt like, okay, some of this ice is melting. um and from that point on, yeah, it could have been what you said. He's obviously worldly, and he's been around. But then also there was that scene where he's in the bar and she's like staring at him through the window, and he goes out. I think that's
Well, that's
actually
only
right before
that's
they
only
hooked up.
because
Yeah.
that's yeah, because she found out about his family and what he had to deal with. So, but here for me, like I've been married for what, almost 9 years now. Juan, you're married. Kevin, you had your dealings. Like I feel like we can understand that any initial introduction with a woman and you're making a fat joke, that girl's out the door with you. She's done. Like I'm not interested, dude. Like and that's what he walked in with. He walked in with a fat joke. Oh, you're eating for the two of you? No woman's gonna be like, oh wow, yeah, I really like this guy. So it started. Didn't see anything that would make me say, oh, they're totally gonna hook up.
Yeah.
No, and even if they built it up, like he literally kissed her after she said, Oh, I found out about your family. Oh, only the gory parts I see. Boom. Let's go. I'm like, what just happened?
My God, I have a raging boner now.
Yeah. I'm like, you're talking about the
it,
gruesome parts
it
about your
was
family.
right. It didn't feel natural. It was very jarring. It was kind of out of the blue, but it only made sense because of how the movie progressed. Which I think like I feel like his character would have been better with no, me and sex in movies. Like there's nothing there for me when it comes to that. So I feel like there were so many different ways it could have gone because of his initial reaction. Like maybe he had to work a little harder just to help them out. We didn't have to go, oh, well, he had sex with her, so now he wants to help her. Because I really felt like that was the case. He got a little taste, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm still here, and I kind of want to do it again." And she's like, "Sure, but you need to help me." And he's like, I don't know if I signed up for all of that."
That could be
you know,
kidnapping. Yeah.
yeah, that's the vibe I got. So it was just like, again, there were so many opportunities for interesting ways for this movie to go, and it was just like ho hum after ho hum reaction. Oh, okay, whatever.
Just to set up that weird family portrait at the end.
Right.
It was so
No,
weird.
I don't entirely agree. I mean, I hear you guys, and
You're not allowed to.
I'm not discrediting. That you both have valid points. Um, I kind of, yeah, I was not as shocked by the hookup as you guys were. I mean, obviously, comparing it, yeah, I mean, that's just what some people do. I was
Whoa,
judged.
but you don't have to be shocked by it, but you can't tell me that when that happened, you're like, oh, I could see that happening. There's no reason. I like it
No,
doesn't
I
mean to
mean,
be shocked. I
I
was
was.
confused by it. Like, dude, there was nothing that showed me that sort of connection there.
No, well, first of all, I mean, I think I just don't remember the order, but I'm trying to remember if at that point, because she knew about his family, and then there's the part where she um, reveals to him, what really happened, with her child,
After.
and so okay, so that was after. That's fine,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, what surprised me was that she went with it. I wasn't surprised that he tried to kiss her, but I was surprised that she was like, "Okay, let's go. We're doing this."
Yeah, but
Um,
the said, "Oh, I didn't think you liked me." And she had shown from the beginning that she didn't like him. And yeah, I understand she heard the story of his life and she was looking at him through the window, but that was it. She was just looking at him. Like there was no reason for her to go, "Oh wow, she's looking at me through the window." Yeah, I'm totally gonna I'm totally smashing that. Like there was no reason for that to happen. Just because you're looking at someone, that doesn't make sense.
no, you don't know. Like
I
they could have just felt something in the moment. There could have just been a spark there. That some impulse.
but it's a
He had
movie.
also
You have
been
to show me
drinking,
that.
but no,
But
he had all.
Yeah, like they could have, but there was nothing narratively that built to it. Like nothing in the flow of this river of a story built towards that at all. Like there was nothing, and it just we're going along, and then we just did a sharp left turn, and then we went right turn and kept going.
Yeah,
dude,
but
when
see, you're making it like there has to be this rise, and this build up to that moment. Sometimes
no, not
sometimes
at
that
all.
that moment is the spark that ignites, and then everything, start really picks up from that point on through that action.
No, but I don't need a spark. Like I don't need that. I just need some form of like inkling, anything at all that shows that okay, I can understand why he made that choice. But he literally said, "Oh, I didn't think you liked me." So it's like, dude, if you know she didn't like you, then why would you still make that move? You know? Hearing someone say that while after like or before seeing them make a move, those two things just don't go hand in hand. I don't look at someone going, man, they really don't like me, and then 5 seconds later going, you know what, I'm gonna kiss her. Like that just doesn't. There
Well,
was nothing there to show me why he would kiss her. None. If he didn't say, "Oh, I didn't think you liked me," I probably would have believed it a little bit more. But the fact that he said those words, I was like, dude, yes, the same. So why the hell did you kiss her? Because I thought she hated him. I thought she had no interest. This is some sleazy reporter, and I thought that was going to be his role, the sleazy reporter that maybe helps her understand why it's happening. I never once expected them to become physical at all.
Well, I'm just putting up the white flag and just saying I disagree because clearly we can drive
Listen, Juan,
this.
like this movie, that is also a cop out.
Well, I just disagree, um, and that's that.
But
Um,
yeah, well, yeah, it is for me. Like I'm a dum dum when it comes to movies. I don't think, I don't try to figure out. I consume what you give me, and what you give me, then I elaborate. I think, I figure out, you know. And so for me, it was just like I don't at all see why he would have been interested in doing. Um, but I listen. I will say, at the end of it, while it sounds like I didn't enjoy the movie, there were aspects that I enjoyed. Again, I do think that there's a lot of great ideas that were stemming from this, and I feel like three movies can come out of this that would have told what was happening in this movie better than what we got. So I do think that there was a lot of potential, and I do have a lot of good things to talk about. So I don't want to make it sound like I completely hated the movie.
oh no, I didn't get that at
Okay.
all.
All right. All right. All right. All right. That works.
Um, so for me, one of the questions that I want to ask, and this was definitely, I think it's the most interesting question that the movie asks, which is, um, do you ultimately believe that Lib's actions and her intervention at the end was ultimately good, like a good choice or a bad choice? And I guess I mean morally. What is what she did morally right or wrong?
For who, Lib?
Also,
Yeah,
Oh no.
just
I
overall,
mean,
like
good,
you
Kevin.
know what it did remind me of? I want to believe the one with Casey Affleck. Was it Gone Baby Gone?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
where
there's a
they
lot of
kidnapped the
movies.
baby. No, no, I'm just thinking about Gone Baby. Where like another spoiler for that movie, where they had kidnapped the baby because she would have been better off elsewhere. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's that more dilemma. Did like he do the right thing by returning her, and did she do the right thing? Because ultimately she saved this girl's life, but she took her away from her family. She took her from that. So, like morally, I do believe she did the right thing because you have to intervene if she's not safe in her family. But like it's just so hard to say that because like they thought they were doing the right thing for their family.
Yeah.
But I do think she did
Wait,
the right
in
thing.
this movie or Gone Baby Gone?
Oh, in this movie,
Uh,
yeah.
okay. Um,
And in
yeah,
Gone Baby
no,
Gone, they did the right thing too. They should have kidnapped that baby and kept her.
no. I feel like at the end of it, she did the right thing because she gave everyone a chance to come out with it. I actually wrote down my favorite scene in this whole movie was when Lib went to the, I guess, lack for a better word, council,
The
and
council, yeah.
yeah, and said, "Hey, this is what's happening," and they're like, "Okay, well, let's ask her," and that whole scene, I mean, was phenomenal to me.
Well,
The lighting, the music, the tone. Um, I mean, when she came in the wheelchair, like she looked like she was dying, and for her to just sheepishly say, "Oh, manna from heaven," that whole scene for me was phenomenal. I love that scene. Um, I that was the point where I feel like everyone knew what was going on at that point, and she's still denying it. So yeah, I do think that she did the right thing because this girl was totally gonna die. But yeah, no, that was my. Sorry, I just kind of threw it in. That was my like favorite scene in the movie. That whole interaction between the console and her and bringing Anna in. That was a great scene for me.
Yeah.
oh
Um,
wait, real fast, sorry. But you in that scene, you know who really takes me off? That nun. And
Yeah.
they're like, "Have you seen this kiss happen?" No. And then later on, she's like, "Oh, I saw her riding with an angel. Tell me she went to a better place. She's in a better place." I'm like, "No, F
You don't
you, because you
you don't
had a
get that.
chance. You had a chance. And she should be like, no, she didn't. She should let her think that the girl died because the
You know, it's
person was
funny.
disgusting."
My second note here, I put none. Uh-oh, we about to have some demons in this movie. Because I like, they're like, they pointed out that they got a nurse and then a nun. And I was like, whoa, they got a nun?
Yeah.
Okay, we about to have some demons up in here.
Yeah. The nun redeemed herself at the end, Kevin. Come on.
What by saying that line?
Well, by
Like
not
she
no, by not snitching on them.
okay, so she didn't snitch on him, but she had a chance to actually say, "Oh yeah, no, I seen her kiss. I don't think she was feeding her or whatever." But to say no, just when you know the girl's dying.
Yeah, that was her error, and then the end was
Yeah.
her redemption.
So her not stepping up to the plate was her error, and then her not saying anything is supposed to be her redemption. No, all right, the lady had no
Yeah,
backbone.
exactly.
I have
Listen,
zero,
it
zero. I
wasn't
was she was in the fire.
it wasn't
By the way,
meant
that
for
fire was
her.
beautiful. By the
It
way,
wasn't
but
meant for her to be the one that rescued Anna. It was
of
Libs.
course not. It had to be Lib, but it's
But
whatever.
but the moral question for me, it reminded me of the age old dilemma of, is it okay to steal bread to feed your family? And while ultimately I think, what she did saved Anna's life, clearly, so there's a good reason for her actions there. I was conflicted because I didn't feel like Liv's motivation was purely selfless. I think at the same time she connected with Anna and
Hmm.
she saw this as filling, the void that she had from the loss of her own child. Also, the fact that she committed multiple crimes. I mean, she burned down these people's home, which I guess it was maybe her way of punishing them for what they were doing.
Gangster
But
move, by the way.
then she also kidnapped them, kidnapped, Anna.
Even more
Um,
gangster move.
so, so multiple
Well,
crimes.
he did try putting a tube down that girl's throat too.
Oh, yes, she did.
No, not try. She did.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
she did, and then
exactly.
she stopped.
That thing was coming out her anus when she finally pulled it out.
It was way in
Uh,
there, man.
What was funny about that is that it didn't show
oh my
what
god.
that to. It just showed us that she was ramming a tube down her throat. And then, oh, speaking of the tube, there was one point where Anna threw up, and I'm like, what is she throwing up? Like,
Oh, yeah.
she had no food, right? And that's when I knew, okay, so she is being fed by her mother. So that's why I think that's why I like that scene even more because I knew what was happening. There's no way, like, if you're not eating, you're not throwing up.
Yeah.
There's
Well, you
nothing to
got
throw up
bile.
in. No. She didn't throw up bile, bro.
I know,
Bile's
but
a little bit. She threw up a lot. She threw up all over the floor, fell over. Like there
I
was
just don't want
vomit.
to think about her mom feeding her like a bird, though. Ugh, it's disgusting.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Again, another interesting thing that we could have seen played out, but we didn't get to see that
What, the
that
actual
much.
feeding?
Like,
Not
what if
even
she
the
had other
feeding,
children and she fed them all like that?
but maybe showing us the mom. Maybe the mom was eating more than normal. It could have showed us anything that would have been like, oh wow, she is feeding her by the mouth. I could totally see that. But I thought that was very interesting that was happening, but it's the opportunity.
Why do you think that when at the beginning when Lib is in the family's home and she's looking at that painting and the son, the psychopath son is in the picture and the mom goes, I had his eyes painted on.
Because
What?
because when they took the picture to make the painting, he blinked.
That is actually a very probable.
The eyes are so creepy though. It's just like I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Maybe they'll play on that later. But like
That
his
he was watching them from the afterlife.
maybe I don't know. But
I
see,
don't
I
know.
don't know. They didn't really do it. Another like little oh, why is that
Yeah.
happening? And then it was just kind of just brushed over. But his eyes were so bad. Like it was so. like stupidly bad. Like you ever seen that the guy who did the Ronaldo statue?
Yeah.
He's the same one that did that painting, bro.
The bust. The bust.
It's like I don't well, that doesn't even look remotely human, you know. So I thought there was something to come out of that, but no, nothing. Again, bro, like that's my point. Like there was just so many opportunities to make this I, I guess maybe I'm focused on horror, but there's just so many opportunities to make this a great horror movie. And maybe the eyes were what kept her from eating, or I don't know. Like there were so many ways it could have gone, but yeah, I was dying for that part. His eyes were
The
big.
speaking of eyes, man, the mom's eyes were freaky, man, because they were like black. They were like oil. They had they had no whites. Her eyes, they were just like black oil.
Ah, man.
Oh.
I'm looking at my notes and I'm laughing because towards the end I literally wrote down, bro, just give her a roll already. Like, I don't know why this is going on so long. And then when she took her by the riverside and broke off that little piece of bread and fed it to her, I put, oh my God, she actually gave her a piece of roll. It was hard for me to believe that no one in their right mind would just feed this girl. Like, just give her some bread, give her a cracker, bro, piece of cheese, like something, anything. And everyone's like, no, no, we can't.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that was like again, I suppose on the one hand, you're like, well, everyone should have known better. That doctor should have known better. I love the one guy in the council that was like, he was so disgusted by everyone else because he was like, come on, clearly someone's feeding her. Like he had common sense.
Was it? I thought
But
that was the doctor who thought that.
no, no, I think it was the guy that first greeted her when she walked into like that inn or that pub at the beginning, that he pointed her to the family's house or something. But no, it was a guy that was sitting all the way on the right, and he was the one that was like, she's right, she just told us the truth when
Yeah,
they were meeting at the council. I
yeah.
liked him. But where was I going with that? What was I saying?
Well, I will say it was pretty funny that after everything happened and they were interrogating her after the house and whatever, they're like, oh yeah, we don't have a body, so I guess you're
She's
good.
dead.
You're free to go. Like, I'm like,
Yeah,
literally, how did you're telling me that there's no body for Anna? There's zero body, and you guys are just going, well, this is done. All right, see you later.
yeah,
Like, usually when there's no body, everyone's like, okay, well then there's something still amiss here. Like,
yeah.
we need to find out what's going on. And
True.
they all just shrugged their shoulders, going, oh well.
Yeah.
The fire
Well,
was so hot, it disintegrated the body.
well, and that it was an all-consuming fire, just like the manna. But
It
but
looked
that
like it only took the roof to me.
I know the same. But that was my point, is that there was something sort of sad in the sense that no one was willing to use common sense or logic, because so many of them, especially coming out of that um, uh, famine, right? They it was like they wanted to believe in something miraculous, right? Because of what they of this horrific thing that they all just experienced. And you see it today, with things like stains on water stains on walls, that people are like, oh, it's the Virgin Mary. And then you see people making treks and pilgrimages there, and we're people of faith, so we do have faith and believe, a strong faith. But there are just ways in which there are facets to faith that people just take to extremes and unhealthy ways, and to that lead them to even do crazy things, like even shooting other people and killing other people for their faith or their beliefs, that sort of fanaticism.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who is religious. I always think it's a cop out when they make like religion equals crazy.
Hmm.
Because that's not the case. I
Right.
know there are fanatics, but that's across the board. Like you have atheists that are fanatics, you have Christians who are fanatics, Jewish, I mean Hindu, like you name it. You have people who just are fanatics. But
Yeah.
that shouldn't define the religion.
Yeah.
Like I really truly feel like if they were true Christians, they would have seen what their son was doing, and like they would have been like, let's make sure that our daughter who's still here doesn't follow that route,
Yeah.
doesn't have these sinful feelings or thoughts in their mind, and instead they were just like, oh no, we need to pray for our son, and we need to atone for our son who is in hell for the things that he did. That's not how it works. So I just and again, the cop out. I feel like that's a cop out because you can easily pick up religion and just go, "Oh yeah, these people are crazy because of what they believed in." It's like, well, you can't call everybody crazy for what they believe in. You might not feel it's right, but it's what they believe, and I'll let them believe that, and I'm not going to call them crazy for it, but I don't believe it, and that's that. So good. I hear something coming.
No, no, I was just gonna say like maybe I'm a little naive. I kind of I don't know, maybe he is. I mean it was you could view it as, a heavy-handed criticism of religion.
Mhm.
I kind of just felt like religion was just what fit this story, this
Yeah,
particular story. And
in the old
I mean,
times.
clearly the director has something to say about religion, but this could have also just been a story about, you know, sports and competitive nature of like winning, driving you to, do crazy things. I think it could have been about a lot of things. This one
Yeah,
just had the costume of religion on it. So that's why personally I wasn't offended or I didn't take it like, you know, um, it was just attacking religion. I kind of felt like, yeah, I mean, that's not the way my religion looks or a lot of, the religion for a lot of people, but in the past and in many other facets, like there's a correlation there with the way that I think Kevin said that at the beginning, like beliefs and views and ideas just get wrapped up in other stuff and like twisted.
yeah. I yeah, I see what you're saying. But I think Christians themselves tend to give themselves a bad rap. Um, because you have the side that will like berate you for doing anything that's against the Bible, while in their own home they don't follow any Christian values. And so everyone just focuses on the crazy Christians. Oh, they're crazy and they follow this and that, but then they also do this and that. Um, and I don't think this movie was 100% like that, but for me, if the parents really knew what was going on, because again, they didn't really play, like, they didn't tell me. They kind of played on the notion that the parents knew. And so that's kind of what I'm going on. And if the parents knew and they were still like, okay, well, we need to make sure our daughter told, like, that that left a sour taste in my mouth, because I don't feel like a real Christian would do that. I don't feel like a real Christian would say, oh, okay, well, I know my son did all these bad, horrible things, but my daughter's at fault, so I'm gonna make sure that my daughter fixes it. I don't know, man. It was just
But
I
but it
always feel like religion's just an easy way to just
but it
progress a
could be
story.
what you said. Like you don't feel like a person who follows real Christian values would do that, and
Yeah.
maybe that's what he's showing. These people aren't following real Christian values.
Yeah,
They're,
but
they're following a religion that suits them and allows them to have control over things.
But that's very like up in the air. Like we have to make our own point on that. It's not clear whether the direction or the story or whatever is focused on that way. It's just it's me going, that's not a real Christian. That's bad. Like that's not someone who follows Jesus, who follows God. That's not someone that would do that, But that wasn't clear. That's just me and with my beliefs and how I live this. Like I'm a firm believer in loving.
Hello?
Oh, did we lose him?
Yeah, we lost him. Um, but one thing I was gonna say, just till we get him back, was there, and I just realized there is a clue of the family's knowledge, and again, we don't know to what extent. Like, were they married, or in some you know perverted ceremony or whatever? But she did have an awareness of like what her penance was, or like what she had to do, because there was that prayer that she recited, and she had to do it like 33 times. um
Yeah.
so that would inform you that like, I don't think she just came up with that. That's probably like a priest or something
Oh,
that was like, all right, here's what you got to do to get him out of purgatory, or out of hell.
Well, he said a special kind of love. Sorry, I don't know how I disappeared. But he said there was a special kind of love between sister and wife.
Yeah.
yeah, double love.
Yeah, like that was known. Like he said that. He said what he was doing and she even said, "Oh, like, I loved him too." Um so again, like when the parents are like, "Okay, well, you need to not like you need to stop eating," or well, no, they didn't ask her to do that. She said, "Don't ask me to eat again." But they made it clear that she needs to do something to fix this situation. That kind of like it just I don't know. It bothered me, but again, like it's because religion always has a bad rap in movies. Religion always has a bad rap in movies, and you're either crazy or wrong. Um, so I feel like if it didn't go the religious route and more of the horror movie route, I would have been more intrigued by it. But I don't know. I always look at religion as low hanging fruit. Like I don't need you to sit here and tell me why you think something's crazy or why this person doing what they feel is I don't know. I guess it's too real world for me.
Mm,
And I don't like real world. I like to be immersed in fiction.
yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I was. All right. Well, I think it's a good time to get to our ratings, and then I have some fun facts.
Ooh, I love fun facts.
Ooh. So is there rating time now?
Yeah, let's do the rating first.
Are
Did you just flush a toilet?
That's supposed to be a drum roll.
A
that
duck?
sounded that sounded terrible, whatever that was.
Oh,
That was awesome. That sounded great.
we will try. We will try better.
You said a jungle?
It was
That
supposed
was
to be a
supposed
drum roll.
that was supposed to be drum roll. It sounded like a car rattling down the street.
Okay.
I do. I do realize it did not sound the best.
Some of
You
them
live and
do.
you learn, baby. You live and you
Some of
learn.
them do. All right. So for me, Um, there were things I liked about this movie. There were things that could have been better. Most of all, I think after watching it, I really appreciated again those cinematic qualities, the score, um, the um, the framing of shots, and the cinematography, the acting of Florence Pugh, and it had a lot of good things going for it. I was disappointed it wasn't, like Mark said, it wasn't more of a horror angle. Yet still, I was pleased with just how thought provoking it was. And even here, we saw how much conversation came out of it about many different themes, several different themes. So for me, while I don't think everyone would enjoy this movie, um, I think I enjoyed it enough that for me, I'm going to go with a 3.5 out of 5 little Jerry's.
All
3.5.
right, you're the first one to bust out decimals for your season. Congratulations.
3.5. It's fraction. 3.5.
Uh, Fine. Who wants to go next?
Why
You're
don't you
next,
go
bro.
next?
Yeah, you're next.
It's
Trying to
you and
figure out
one
who's
other
going
guy.
next.
What do you mean? Who wants to?
Oh man, like I don't know what to
Are
say
the
about
audience
this.
chiming in? I didn't realize they had an avenue here.
Anybody out there want to go? All right. So there's a quote that I did like in this movie called "Sorrow is God's spade; it readies the ground." And I can tell you, this ground here is readied because I have sorrow that I've watched this movie. So with that, I will give it a one because while the acting, I thought she did a good job. I would never watch this movie. I would never recommend it to anybody. There's like I can't burn it out of my memory, so I'm stuck with it. But yeah, there you go. You get a one
Did
for
All
me.
right. All right. Um, I will say I am a huge fan of when the title of the movie is said in a non-confrontational, like you're not expecting it. I love when the title of the movie is brought up, and I literally wrote it down. The mom literally said, "She's a joy, a wonder." I went, "Oh, there it is, there it is," and that was a saving grace for me. Not saving enough though. I'm gonna give this a 3. No points, no halves, no fractions. It's a 3. The soundtrack is phenomenal. I think that the music really kept me engrossed in the movie. Um, there wasn't much soundtrack, but when it was happening, it was perfect. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It's something that I commented the most on in my notes. Um, there was a lot of great ideas, a lot of potential ways that this movie could have gone that I feel would have been better than traditional kidnap to a better place, what she thinks is a better place. Because we have no idea what kind of mother she is. She could be someone that also deprives her kids of food, and I don't know. Who knows? We don't know.
does drugs?
Uh, Yeah, she's every night she's just dropping out into some liquid that she's drinking, and when she's bored, she masturbates. I mean, like there's just a lot of wrong things with her. So it's just hard for me to accept that that Anna went to a better place. Um, but I think that with the certain shots in the soundtrack, it is redeeming enough to give it a 3. I really enjoyed the conversation they had between the council and Anna and Lib. When everything was going to go down. Um, that scene really I don't know, man. The lighting, the way Anna looked, she looked like she was out the door sick, and for her to just calmly say "manna from heaven," I don't know. It was a great scene. But it was kind of a mess of ideas. This was like I don't know. It was just a mess of ideas, I guess, to repeat it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, a lot of missed opportunities, and I will never watch this again.
Okay.
But it will stick with me because of the missed potential. Like the one what did we see last week? Pinocchio, missed opportunities. There's plenty of ways that could have gone, but it never fleshed out into something memorable or enough, to garner a better rating. So yeah, that's a 3 for me.
Never say never, Mark. You might watch this movie in 20 years. You'll be a different man. It might hit differently. So
Nah, I usually steer away from movies that have like pedophilia or incest, and like really, bro, that was a huge eye roll moment for me when she mentioned that. I was just like, because I really was not expecting it to go that way. I had no inkling of an idea that we were going to be hit with that.
yeah.
So once that happened, everything was just kind of a cop out from there. Like, oh. All right, whatever. You're just trying to shock value me, but I don't know. Maybe I think I would have been. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Yeah, no. That whole incest plotline was boring.
Okay, well, speaking of Pinocchio, I did correctly predict when we recorded that episode that it would win an award. And just yesterday, I believe it was, or no, 2 days ago, it won Best Animated Feature at the Golden Globes.
Wow, that movie is beautiful to watch, man.
And actually, speaking of that, to begin my fun facts, uh,
Wait. Before you begin, though, we do have to tell people that our scale was on a 1 to 5 scale. I don't think
Oh,
we
we've
mentioned that.
changed it now. We are 1 to 5 now.
I said
So they
that
don't think you're giving it a. Did you? I didn't hear it.
3.5 out of 5 little Jerry's.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Okay, it's been explained now thoroughly.
Fun fact, hit me.
Um, did I hurt your feelings, Kevin?
No, I'm just waiting for your fun facts.
He signed off. He's
Well,
done.
before you interrupted me, what I was saying was that I forgot to do the fun facts for Pinocchio. So
Oh.
I'd like to do those now, if that's okay with you, gentlemen. And if anyone listening to this gets a nice little bonus, and if they
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Go for it.
Pinocchio,
Hit me. Hit me.
so they'll go back and
But
listen.
do you have fun facts to follow up for the Wonder?
I've got one.
Okay. Wait, do you have more for Pinocchio or more for the Wonder?
I've got two for Pinocchio.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Go for it.
So Pinocchio, the puppet Pinocchio is the first puppet fully printed out of a 3D printer.
Oh, interesting.
First of its kind.
That is a fun fact. So it actually wasn't made of clay.
No.
Noted.
Now, they had different puppets made out of different things, and yeah, he was fully 3D printed.
Interesting.
Also, one shot, a tracking shot in that movie, took over 3 months to make.
Which one? Do you know? Did they say?
I think it's one where he's like, I think they do show it's. I think it's. I forgot. He's like, it's like a chase or something through the streets. I think it's something like that, and Pinocchio like goes everywhere.
My first thought was when he was walking through the town and he saw the sign that Spazzatura was putting up.
Yeah, it was something of him like walking through the town or something like that through the town.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because that was a pretty big scene when he threw out that whole big banner.
yeah.
I noticed that. That was a big set piece. All right.
So that was it for.
3 months. That's crazy.
I know.
3 months out of 1,000 hours, I think it was, right?
Maybe
A lot.
My fun fact for the Wonder is that Elaine Cassidy, who plays the mom, Rosaline, and Kíla Lord Cassidy, who plays Anna, the daughter, are mom and daughter in real life.
So that's for your fun fact.
Yeah, the fact that they have the same last name, yeah, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any
What
more
about
for the Wonder, or is that it?
That's it. I had another one, which was that the writer who
another one. Sorry.
Why did I feel set up for that?
He was literally trying to set you up for that, man.
Well, I was like, I hope he has one more. I was like, all right. So you were saying?
No, it was the one about the writer having done Room as well, but I mentioned that one already. So, all right. Well, you heard it here. We have covered this movie thoroughly. If you are intrigued by what you heard, as I mentioned, you can catch this film on Netflix. If it doesn't sound appealing to you at all, then you can be thankful that we watched it and now you don't have to.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. I will say bon voyage, and I'll let the boys sign off. We'll see you next time.
All right, everybody.
Love you.